In chapter 6 of the Death of Ivan Ilych, Ivan knows he's dying but can't truly grasp the reality of death. He'd learned the logic that all men are mortal, but he finds it impossible to apply that logic to himself and his own death. Death may apply to men in general, but Ivan can't grasp how it can apply to him as an individual. He recalls his childhood and all the things that make him a unique human being. Because of his uniqueness, dying for him would be too terrible. Ivan Ilych thinks he'll go back to work, hoping that the law courts will occupy his mind and distract him from the idea of mortality that haunts him. Ivan Ilych envisions himself conversing casually with his colleagues and speaking during court proceedings. But then his imagination shows him in the midst of the proceedings the pain in his side returning, and it would be so acute that Ivan Ilych would lose track of the proceedings altogether. He'd make mistakes in court, and the pain and his illness would be clear to his colleagues. He would suffer inexpressibly. Ivan Ilych puts the house in order sometimes to distract himself from his suffering. Sometimes he rearranges the furniture. Praskovia and he occasionally fight over these rearrangements. However, Ivan welcomes these arguments because they distract him from his pain or from his impending death, at least for a few minutes. Ivan is confronted by reality and thinks, it really is so. It can't be true. It can't, but it is. He then goes into his study to lie down and to face his pain and mortality head on. Ivan Ilych can no longer ignore his suffering or his pain or his mortality. To keep these thoughts at bay, he seeks to erect screens to block them from his mind. But none of these screens maintain a state of denial. As each screen crumbles, Ivan comes face to face with his pain, death, and fear. Ivan Ilych tries to use logic to argue his way out of his fate. Logic is an acceptable and proper way to approach problems for educated, upwardly mobile, middle-class men like Ivan Ilych. Ivan cannot force the logical argument that in the abstract, all men die, to particular logic that he as an individual should not die. But logic does not help him devise an orderly argument that exempts him from mortality. Death is simply not that logical.